for Android or you make a choice for an iPhone, your phone is tracked wherever you go every single minute of the day. They know from one cell phone tower to another what your location is, and that tracking has got better and better and better over the last few years. So, for example, now when I go out and do my walking exercise every day, although I forgot to, well, I didn't forget, I didn't get time to do my walking exercise today, but I switch on an app, and it gives me a map of everywhere that I've been, very, very accurate. So even down to the fact, if I walk on one side of the street on the way out and on the other side of the street on the way back, the map shows that I've got two different pathways on my phone. And we're talking about very narrow streets. So it knows exactly. If I've crossed the street, it shows my pathway has crossed the street. So all of this information is being tracked. And what they can do with that information over a period of time, and especially with somebody like me, where every day I go for a walk, I record my walks on the cell phone tracking, because I want to have all the information about how long did it take me, how many steps did I take, how far did I go. And I think I told you before, I put all this information then into a graph, and I can show all these graphs because I'm a scientist and I like information. I like data like that. But somebody like the FBI or the NBI here in the Philippines, if they can intercept that information by paying Google, so they pay Google for that information, they know that at a certain time every day, normally between 5 p.m. and 6 p.m, that I go for a walk, and they know where I go for a walk. So if they want to arrest me because they think I'm doing some kind of illegal activities, they can wait down the road for me to come around the corner, and their car's there. They just put me in the car and they take me away. Now, okay, in the Philippines, it's not very likely, although they could do it. And maybe I say it's not very likely. Actually, it could be likely. The president of the Philippines, by many people, is considered to be a dictator. Okay, but I think he's all right. I think me and the president would get along very well. So I think there's no problem for me. But what about if you're in China and the ideas that you type out on your computer when you use WeChat or whatever it is that they have in China? Of course, the Chinese government is monitoring TikTok. Well, TikTok is the other one, isn't it? They're telling everybody now to unload or whatever it is from their cell phone. Get rid of TikTok because it's monitoring you. Okay, if you're in America and TikTok is monitoring you, it's probably not very important. If you're in China and you're some kind of activist and you're always typing messages, they know what you're doing, and they know where to find you and how to find you very easily. And that's probably more worrying than in a Western country at the moment. But Western countries are changing very rapidly. If Donald Trump in November decides that he doesn't accept the result of the election if he loses, then America could sort of like quite quickly tumble into being a dictatorship. It's possible. It's maybe not very likely, but it is possible that he might not accept it. Okay, so these things, countries change, and in exceptional times like a natural disaster, like a pandemic at the moment, you don't know. In any country of the world, it could change. And when it changes, the person who's in charge might say, well, all these people disagree with me. I think I think we need to round those people up and educate them like they used to do in China when they used to send them off for education. It could happen. And I think that's what people worry about with all of this tracking. People think, I should be, what I say on my laptop or on my phone or in my classes to you should be private information. But we're using something called Skype, and it's a free application. Now, anything that is free is not free. There's no, as they say in America, there's no such thing as a free lunch. And the price that you pay for using something like Skype or Facebook or Google Docs or anything like that is that basically you're selling your information. Anything that you put on there, you basically, when you signed up to agree the terms and conditions for these applications, one of the things that you skipped past and just clicked yes, I agree, was that amongst the terms and conditions is that you've said they can use your data for other purposes.
Mm.
And that's what people start to get a little bit paranoid about. They think, well, no, I didn't mean that. What I meant was I agree that I can use it for free. I didn't agree that they can sell all of my data to the police or the FBI or the CIA or another country or another government. But that's exactly what Google's doing. They do sell the information. They make a profit of it. That's how you get to use it for free, because they sell it. They sell your data to somebody else.
Is it um illegal or
No, it's not illegal because you signed a contract with them that they could do it. When you said I agree and I
like I
accept,
agree with that?
that's what you agreed with. Yes.
Oh, why the government buy that information?
Well, that's the big question. What is it that the government needs that information for? So what the companies tell you, so what Facebook tells you or Google is they say we need your information to improve our advertising services. So we just want to look at which sites you visit and what kind of articles you read, and then we can decide the best products to advertise to you. That's what they tell you. They say it's for advertising, for better advertising. So instead of in my case, instead of them advertising women's products to me, of course I'm not going to buy women's products. They can advertise to me cars or motorbikes or smartphones or the gadgets that I'm interested in, because they know what kind of sites I'm visiting.
Mm.
That's what they tell me, and that's what people say. Oh, that's okay. I'm quite happy with that. But amongst all the other terms and conditions is that if the FBI demands to see that information, like the package about me, then they can sell it to the FBI or provide it free of charge to the FBI, one way or the other. So basically, all of my private, like all the conspiracy websites that I like to read about, they give that to the FBI. They say, yeah, this guy is a bit of a conspiracy nut. I think you need to watch him very carefully, because he's always looking at these conspiracy websites. You never know when somebody like him is going to go up with a high-powered rifle and start shooting people from a tower or something. I don't like
Mm.
guns, so I'm never going to do that kind of thing. But they use it for profiling people, and
Mm.
it's been shown and proven very, very clearly that that is the use that it's being put to by governments for people that they think are dangerous.
Oh, so hard for me.
Yeah, okay. So this is I'm just giving you a lot of background information about why it is that some people are worried about the things that they're saying and doing being collected by new technology.
Mm.
Okay, so in other words, do you think that what you say in your emails and text should be private, or do you think, no, I don't care? And so the counter argument from these companies is, what they say is, if you're not doing anything wrong, you don't have anything to worry about. If you're leading a very good life and you don't want to bring down the government, or you don't want to talk badly about the government, why would you worry about it? Why would you worry about the government seeing your
Mm.
information?
Mm.
But people like me say that's not the point. The government could change in the future. It's not what I'm saying now. It's what the government in the future might think about my I believe in democracy, and maybe the government in the future is going to be a dictatorship that doesn't like Democrats. And that's what I don't like, because all of my records over the last 10 years are being stored. And if that government decide we really don't like democratic people, then I'm going to be one of the first people that they're going to round up and say, look, you don't agree with dictatorship. We need to put you in a camp. We need to re-educate you.
Mm. I understand
But
what's the
but
point, but yeah.
Okay, but I mean, you've touched on one area, which is about, let's say, CCTV. But I think the
Mm.
CCTV that there's security cameras that they're talking about, I would say, are a different issue to the what you've discussed in your essay, because what they're talking about is public CCTV, as you mentioned on there, where you said in various cities to prevent crimes. on markets, on streets, on buildings. It gives the police evidence about crimes being committed in those places. That is correct. I think that's absolutely correct. Monitoring systems are being misused, but I think what you're talking about after that, so from this point,
private area.
yeah, what you're talking about
Example.
here, what you're talking about here is not CCTV. It's people installing invasive cameras in hotel rooms or toilets or whatever else it is. It's
I want to say buying the cameras or install camera is relatively cheap for the people nowadays due to the development of the technology. So is persuasive, like everybody watching others' private life or
okay, but what you're talking about here in the part of the text that I've highlighted there now, what you're describing there actually is a crime. Installing some kind of monitoring device in a private area, whether it's a bathroom, a changing room, or a hotel room, that is already a crime. And so it's not what they're talking about in the essay. So what you need to be talking about here is not people already breaking the law. It's about the use of the technology of tracking your phone, tracking where you go, the fact that the camera and the microphone on your phone is always working and on your laptop. So for example, when you go back to your apartment later, and you shut down your laptop, or you leave it on, whatever it is you do, but you think the screen is black and you think it's no longer operating. Actually, it's still operating, and it's possible for somebody else to still operate your laptop remotely. So a hacker can get into your laptop, and you know when your camera is on because there's normally a little green light that's on at the same time. Hackers and governments know how to switch off that light so that the camera is still working, but you don't see it working. So they can see you through the camera, even though you think your laptop or your camera is switched off. And that's the kind of thing that people get paranoid about, is that the technology has been developed so that people can get in through the back door of the device and still continue to use the device, either for recording what you say. So if you go and have a private conversation with a female friend or a male friend or your parents or something like that, and you think you're having a private conversation, it's possible for a hacker to listen to that conversation and record the conversation. So again, that's a huge invasion of privacy. Basically, what's happening is that people are getting into a situation now where there is no privacy. So if you're the kind of person that wherever you go, you always carry your mobile phone with you,
right,
then somebody could be listening to you 100% of the time. Maybe the only time they don't listen to you is when you get in the shower, because you don't take your mobile phone in the shower because it's going to get wet. But all the rest of the time, your mobile phone could be listening to your conversation.
So then some people exploit from my private information to crime of the phone call or the email, wrong email, or the crime. So it could be happen for everybody.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. There was a situation in the UK, probably how many years ago would it be now? Maybe in the last 5 or 10 years. Maybe 10 years ago, there was a girl called Molly something or other. I can't remember her name now. I wasn't in the UK at the time, but it was headline news in the UK newspapers. This young girl disappeared. She was, I can't remember how old, 10 or 12 years old, but she disappeared. And so for a long time, there was a big campaign in the newspapers, try and help find Molly, whatever her name was. And eventually, after a long period of time, they found her dead body. So she'd been kidnapped, she'd been abused, and she'd been killed. During that long period of time when she disappeared, her family kept on sending her text messages and voicemail messages because her phone was still switched on somewhere. Now, the newspapers in the UK knew how to hack her phone. And so what the newspapers were doing was they were reading all of the messages from her family to her phone, because they could get in the back door of her phone. Apparently, it was at the time it was very, very easy to listen to voicemail messages and to read the phone. So they just went in through the back door. So the newspapers kept on updating their readers, saying, "This is what the family's now saying. This is what the family's thinking." And the family were fighting with each other, saying, "Why are you selling our story to the newspapers? Someone here in the family is doing that. That's a really bad thing. You know, we should all be sticking together. We shouldn't be selling. We shouldn't be trying to make money." And they started really fighting. And then finally the story came out that someone in one of the newspapers admitted that the newspapers were hacking into her phone and reading and listening to all of these messages, which is a really horrible invasion of privacy. And so there was a huge inquiry in the UK, and the newspapers, one of the newspapers in the UK basically had to close down because they'd been the worst ones to do it. But all the other newspapers were doing it. They were all doing it. All of them were doing it. So you know, it's not just some wild idea that it's possible. It's something that actually happens. And apparently what they found out was that on say an Android phone, most people don't use voicemail messages. I never use voicemail messages. So
but if the Americans really like voicemails.
Okay, so the problem is, in order to stop people from reading or listening to the message, you actually have to make a privacy setting on the voicemail message. If you don't make the privacy setting, anybody who has your mobile phone number can access your voicemail. So it was
iPhone too?
I'm not sure about iPhones. I don't know, but it was a very, very simple thing for people to listen to it, and they knew it. They just knew that. They just said, basically the idea was, well, just check her phone and see if she's got the privacy setting on. And they had a look. Oh no, the privacy setting's off. Okay, well, let's listen to it. Let's listen to all of her voicemail message. And they just carried on doing it for weeks and weeks. So yeah, it's that kind of invasive technology where somebody can access your device, or hackers or governments or whatever. They can always be listening to what you're saying and doing. So we enjoy using all of this modern technology. We believe that we're very skillful at using spreadsheets or Word or Google Documents or using Skype. We think that we're experts at using it, but actually there are much greater experts out there who know exactly how to access all of our information and use it for their own purposes. And that's really what the question is about, is, you know, do you think it's a good idea? So what is it saying? It's being to monitor what people are saying and doing. So in many cases, the people being monitored are unaware that this is happening. So most people don't realize it. When I describe this to most people who've written this essay, they really don't know the extent to which that all of their data can be accessed.
Include me. I thought that's illegal. But
well, the thing that you've described is illegal. The thing about installing installing cameras in private places, that is illegal. That's a different issue. That is a crime. But the phone monitoring thing or the laptop monitoring thing it's legal because you signed up for it when you started using your device.
Google Docs or
you agreed with them. Yes, of course. Take all my data. You can have everything you want.
That's scary. Sounds scary, but when I write about this essay, I don't know how to describe this phenomena. Like,
so well, okay. So here's the thing: is obviously, you know, I've been talking now for probably 25 minutes or more. and you don't have that amount of time to put that information in there. So you've got to synthesize that down to condense that down to a very, very small description. However, I think that monitoring systems are misused so that people do not know much about the usage. That's correct. The way you've started the paragraph is correct. What I would just carry on there. I would what you've said there, I would take out. I think it's off topic because it's already illegal. So I would just say that you could just say most people do not know that their phones and devices or the applications that they use are collecting so much of their data, and that data is being sold to either to advertisers or to government bodies, or that it can be hacked by skillful individuals who know how to abstract that information. So I would just focus on that and say, and then you can develop that point and say, if people realized how much of their information can be collected, or the fact that their camera or their microphone on their laptop or phone can be activated without their knowledge, people would probably be very, very worried or disturbed by how much of their information is being collected. And that's it. That's all you need to say. It's like 3 or 4 sentences that collects all of that information. And now you've got it because you've recorded the call. Very good. So now you can listen to this call back, and you can collect that last summary I gave you, and you can put that in there, and replace that blue, what I've highlighted in blue there. So let me just insert. No, not that one. Highlight. Okay, so that's the text there. You need to just replace that bit of text there.
I have to mention about that part. 3 or 4 sentences is not enough.
Well, yeah, well, okay. So listen, I gave you a summary at the end. Okay, so just so maybe use that like dictation. Write down more or less what I said, and then see how long it is, and maybe you can reduce it a little bit. Maybe there's something you can leave out, because when I'm talking I might repeat myself or something. So maybe there's some things you can take out, but then just put that in there.
Okay. Oh.
It's surprising. I mean, obviously, whoever set this question, maybe you see one of the problems I've got with IELTS, particularly IELTS Academic, is that it's written by people in Cambridge University in the UK, which means that they are very academically, they are very high-level people like professors. And they probably assume, quite stupidly, that everybody has the same access to information that they do. These are people, these are professors in Cambridge who sit there reading newspapers probably for half of their day, and sit there chatting with their professor friends about what's going on in British newspapers. And so they know what I've just been describing, the story about the girl in the newspapers. They know that story very, very well. And probably one of them thought, oh, that's a very good idea for a topic for an IELTS, because it's topical in the UK. They think this would be a good topic for an IELTS question. And what they don't realize is that people in Korea might never have heard, or probably never heard, of this story about the UK. And what they're not reflecting is the important story in Korea is about invasion of personal privacy by people installing cameras. You see, that's one of the problems with IELTS, is they assume that everybody lives in their little bubble in Cambridge and knows all the same things that they do. There's a lot of questions in speaking and writing, and I get quite annoyed about them, because the people that are doing the IELTS test are people in Africa or Asia or South America.
All students are international students.
Exactly. They're very international, and they've got very different access to information. It's like when I'm teaching my African students, actually some of the African students really surprise me, although they don't go into the detail that I do. They always focus on CCTV in Africa.
Oh, really?
And
Same as me.
No, well, but they don't talk about the invasion of privacy, because that's not an issue in Africa. That's something that hasn't yet happened in Africa. Of course, it'll happen in the future, because the technology is now getting very cheap and very portable and very small. It will happen there as well, and maybe in 2 or 3 years' time, that's what they'll be writing about in Africa. What they're always writing about in Africa is that CCTV. They say it's a good thing because it protects people in the streets. And the only thing that they say that it might be a problem, this is quite funny, the only thing that they say it might be a problem is for men who are having affairs.
Affair?
Like they've got a mistress, they've got a girlfriend. So they always write the essay that maybe men who go to a certain area to collect their girlfriends or to collect them from a bar will be recorded on CCTV, on monitoring systems,
and it might be issue.
And that private detectives or the wife might get hold of that. So that's always the essay from the African students, which just always makes me laugh because they're always writing about the same issue. But it's still an invasion of privacy. And what they say, their conclusion always is that overall they think that the safety of crime prevention in the street for them is a more important issue than some guy who's cheating on his wife. Because obviously maybe they live in, maybe if they're from Nigeria where there's a lot of violence on the streets, they feel safer if there's CCTV and that they think the streets are safer. So it's all about people's perspective in a different country as well, isn't it? My concern is that in theory, in the future, a different government might use my information to arrest me. That's what I don't like about it. If you're in Africa, you think, thank heavens we've got CCTV because I can walk through the streets and it's safe. And your main concern is that if I use a public bathroom or a private bathroom, or if I stay in a hotel, I've got no privacy because I don't know whether there's a camera in there or not. So again, it's international. It's a different perspective.
Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And feel very worried about using Google Docs and even Skype. And then I know I have to be careful reply to Trump's opinion.
Oh, exactly.
Because I have to immigration in the United States. So
absolutely right. Yeah. Seriously. Foreigners, any foreigners, and not only foreigners, even Americans traveling back into America from other countries, it's now quite normal for the NSA to say, okay, show me your device. I want to see your mobile phone. I want to see your text messages. I mean, in your case, it's all written in Korean, I guess, so maybe it's not such a big deal. But you never know. They might say, we've got a Korean NSA officer. Please come here and have a look at these messages. Mm-hmm. So actually, for a lot of people, maybe the best thing you do is you leave your phone in Korea and you buy a new phone when you get to America, or you delete everything on your phone before you go through American. But then they might say, why did you delete everything on your phone? There was a story I read 6 months ago about an American reporter who went to Mexico, and he worked for a reputable organization, a journal or a newspaper, a very proper organization. He went to Mexico to do a series of articles about the drug cartels in America. And then when he came back, I can't remember whether he flew down and he journeyed through Mexico, and then he tried to cross the land border across between America and or Mexico and America. Mm-hmm. They called him over. They said, right, we'd like you to come into this room here. So, and they said, we'd like to have a look at your phone. And he, because he thought he knew his rights as a reporter, he thought he really knew his rights. And he said, I don't have to show you what's on my phone. Mm-hmm. And he said, then they just said, okay, right, come with us. They took him into another room. They locked him into the room. They took his phone, his laptop away, and he was shouting at this, saying, "That's my private property. You can't take that. I'm a reporter. I'm gonna report you in my newspaper when I get back to my newspaper. I'm going to tell them exactly what you're doing." They left him in there for something like 8 hours while they searched his phone. Then they came back and he thought everything was encrypted, so he thought that they won't find it. He was sitting there thinking, yeah, just try it, you won't get anything. They came back into the room where he'd been sitting for 8 hours, and they showed him what was on his phone. So they were able to read, they were able to bypass all the security on his phone, and they said to him, where are these photographs? What were you doing in this location? Why have you written this in your messages? So in messages from like 6 months ago, before he went to Mexico, why did you write this opinion about the president or about the NSA or about whatever it was? And he said, I'm a reporter, that I'm talking about things all the time, different political topics. That's my job. And they said they wanted to go through all of his photographs on his laptop, everything. They wanted to look at everything. And it was a very, very shocking article to read, because he said, I'm a smart guy. I went to university. I went to a top university. I think I know my rights. But they just straight away said, this rule, the rules for the NSA overrule all of your privacy rights. Everything from the US Constitution down, we overrule all of it. We can access any of your information because you may be a terrorist threat for the country. He said, I'm an American. They said, it doesn't matter. You could be an American terrorist. So yeah, you've got to be really careful. I had about 4 or 5 years ago, a friend of mine. He's an Australian. His brother-in-law was an American, and his brother-in-law invited him to Texas or California to help him with some modifications to his house, because this Australian friend of mine is a very practical guy. And they said, look, why don't you come over, have a holiday, and do some modifications to the house while you come over here, and we'll show you around whatever it was, California or Texas. So he's a joker. This Australian friend of mine is always making jokes. His jokes are extreme jokes. So when he got on the plane to fly out of the Philippines, he'd grown a beard, and he dyed his beard black. So when he arrived in the airport in California, they looked at him at the immigration control, and they asked him a question, and because he's always joking, he made some kind of stupid joke to the immigration people, and they just grabbed him and dragged him off to an office. And they asked him to explain why he had a black beard, because he looked like a Muslim, and I think he joked about that as well. He made a joke, even though he's not a Muslim, he just made a joke about it. They held him for about 5 or 6 hours under lots of questioning. And they said, where are you staying? And he didn't know where he was staying when he got to America, because his brother-in-law was waiting in the airport to pick him up. But he said, look, my brother-in-law's out there somewhere. If you call him on this number, he'll tell you what address is. And they said, no, you need to give us the address, not your brother-in-law. We want you to give us the address. And they said, if you can't come up with that information, you're getting on the next plane back to the Philippines or wherever you came from. And they gave him and in the end, he started to panic, and he started to stop joking. He stopped joking.
Oh my goodness!
Giving serious answers, but he was very nearly put back on the next plane out. And they said, "You will never be allowed back into America again."
Yeah, the immigration workers very strict.
Yeah. Okay, so but it's that invasion of privacy that also worries people. Something that you treat as a joke. Like, I mean, if they went through my mobile phone, I'm always making jokes about Trump. There's all sorts of cartoons that I save from newspapers or off Facebook. There's all sorts of really anti-Trump jokes on there. If they ever pick that up and look at it, they'd probably arrest me immediately if I went to America.
Right.
And yet for me it's a joke. It's just funny. So if you found this IELTS class useful, informative, or entertaining, please give it a like, subscribe, and share with other people who you think might benefit from these live IELTS class videos using actual examination topics. Most of the students participating in these classes are now living their dream in English-speaking countries around the world. If you want classes with me, you can contact me on X, LinkedIn, MS Teams, or Viber. Details are given in the description below or on the About page for this channel. Thank you.